points unless he can get that fast lap of the race. That still belongs to Jace Denmark at a 1:17.97. That would be a nice marker for Jace to close up a little bit on Lockie Hughes. And again, like I said, not the worst case scenario for Lockie Hughes, except for the fact that the 3 drivers behind him are the 3 drivers that are ahead of him. Those who are chasing him in the championship standings are all ahead of him on the racetrack. So it's a net negative for Lockie Hughes, but still good points. Every time you're not losing too much on the way to the end of the weekend, the end of the year, it's double headers all the way through, right? 2 races in Toronto, 2 in Portland as well. He's doing what he needs to do. Frankie Mossman having a good run, currently 7th, but Steve, a little bit of an issue in turn number 9.
Yeah, he got onto the brakes and clipped that yellow curbing, and back end of that car started dancing all around, and as his fuel was burning off, that car definitely got really light. He had his hands full, so we'll lose a little distance on the racetrack.
A little late run wake-up call potentially, right? You kind of get into a groove, you get into your rhythm, and every once in a while, as you said, the car starts to get lighter and lighter. Thankfully, the fuel cell in the car is kind of midway through. You don't lose a lot of rear to front balance at all. Car's still very balanced, very strong, but again, all it takes is that one little slip up, especially coming through turn number 9. John and I have reiterated that over the entire weekend, how tough that corner is as you rotate the car, it gets super light. All it takes is 6-7 inches too far to the left, you drop a wheel, and your 4 wheels off there, and you're at that point trying to hold on to the car. So indeed, Mossman needs to stay focused, especially when you're in that place where you're kind of by yourself. Mossman is well in front of George Garcia-Arce. He's slowly closing up a couple of tenths of a second a lap on Matt Clark, but not really close enough to think he's going to be able to make a pass, as there's only 4 laps to go. You get John into that middle place where you're just banging out laps, you got to stay super focused.
Yeah, exactly right. The battle is still great behind Garcia-Arce, and I want to give him props. I mean, he started back in row 7, and he's up into 8th position. He was running as high as 7th before Mossman got around him, so he's doing a great job keeping some really fast drivers behind him. ADT is still keeping pressure on his teammate Escoto just behind them, and Braden Eves resurgent as he's closed back up as well.
Yeah, he's the one that's actually getting challenged in a big way right now. Ethan Ho is putting a ton of pressure on. He looked to the inside at 9. He was almost side by side coming up through 10 and 11 as well. Ethan Ho trying to find his way up to the 11th position. That is it right there. There's 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. It's just he Skeets and Chris Dedulu. I think Beckler may have got by Chris Dedulu as well. There's a move further back, side by side. 4 laps remaining for Nikita Johnson to roll in here and potentially knock out his 4th win of the season. He has not been on a good run. 17th after a crash with Ethan Ho at the Freedom 90 on the oval at IRP. Then at Road America, 7th, 13th, and 6th. Those are not normal Nikita Johnson results. So he is looking to bounce back here at Mid-Ohio. And with 6 races to finish the season, double headers here, Toronto and Portland. Man, a driver gets on a roll here and starts getting that confidence back. I think still all bets are off until we get to Portland, because let's put it this way. The opening corner there, the festival chicane, anything can happen when it comes to a championship.
Well, sure, and like I said, you've got 66 points on offer each weekend, and that could turn the championship on its head. I mean, Lockie Hughes with a 50-point lead. It's going to be less than 50 coming out of this race. That's hardly secure with 2 more double headers to come after this weekend.
Nico Christodoulou able to get by Ethan Ho on that lap, so move him up into the 12th spot. Escoto still sitting there in 9th behind Garcia-Arce. Has not been able to make the move. There's 3rd, 4th, 5th place drivers right there. Simon Sykes in 5th. Look at the gap from 5th. We wait and wait and wait. Where's Matt Clark? That's the gap that they have developed. Top 5 have flat checked out. Matt Clark is the next driver. Look at that gap, 14 seconds to Matt Clark. And then there's Frankie Mossman trying to reel him in, and he has been doing that lap after lap, a couple of tenths of a second a lap. He's still 3.5 back, so I don't see Mossman getting it done, but nonetheless a great job for Mossman. The biggest battle here right now is this fight we're seeing further back with Garcia-Arce, Escoto, DeTulio. I think it looks to me like Eves may have lost another position. Nico Christodoulou, I think, able to get by Braden Eves as well. So Braden now back to 12th after a very confidence-inspiring P1 in the opening practice session on Thursday. They've not been able to translate that into race pace here today. 2 laps to go for Nikita Johnson. They'll work their way again, as I said, out of turn number 1. Rusty, I believe the leader's in front of you.
Down the straightaway right now, we have seen a little bit of smoke out of the Simon Sykes car as he comes around turn one. Looks like maybe a rear axle seal, but the car's staying on track and his lap times look good. So I think he'll be good for the end of this one.
Yeah, those first 5 already by us here. We don't see any smoke behind the Sykes car now.
And the leader's up over the hill through turn number 10. That gap has opened up a little bit from Johnson back to Denmark a couple laps ago as Christian Brooks came through here, clipped the curb, and dropped the wheel off. Not too much lost in that one. This time keeps it on track. They're up through turn 11.
Over the last couple laps, Christian Brooks has most definitely eaten into the gap between he and Chase Denmark, quicker by 0.3 of a second on lap number 28. White flag flying this time by for Nikita Johnson. 18.2 for Nikita. What do we got for Johnson? An 18.3. Brooks an 18 flat. Again, another 0.3 of a second. Brooks closing. It's going to be too little too late as it's the final lap. The leaders, the top 5, essentially the top 7, are alone on the racetrack. This is 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Look at this. This is this battle we're seeing further back. What a great scrap we've had throughout the day here, deeper in the field. Final lap on the racetrack right now for Nikita Johnson. Going to get his 4th win of the season. He'll be able to try to back it up this afternoon as we go racing once again. 4:50 start time for USF Pro 2000 and the back end of their doubleheader here. Just a tremendous run for Nikita Johnson. 1.5 seconds the current gap. There's the leaders coming through here. There's again the easy to spot yellow halo for the deploy surveillance car, Christian Brooks for Pabst Racing. Lockie Hughes closing up. Simon Sykes, actually. All those drivers turning 18 flats. Some really good lap times from Brooks, Hughes, and Sykes on the final circuit. Fast lap actually belongs to Simon Sykes now, 1:17.9. So there's your bonus point. But out of the final corner, folks, through the carousel, onto the front straightaway. 4 wins on the season. Nikita Johnson, victorious in the opening race here at Mid-Ohio for USF Pro 2000. He is the winner of the Tatus Grand Prix. First of 2 races. This is the battle still happening. The leaders are already done. They're across the line. Let's hope these drivers get home cleanly. We got side by side through 7. That was a big move further back. I want to say that might have been, I think, Skeets and Becklin battling with Ethan Ho. Yeah, Ethan Ho able to get back out front there. It's the final circuit as he went full defensive coming out of turn number 6. Final drivers coming through here. There's the 2 BN racing cars behind Garcia Arce. Garcia Arce is going to hold them off. Good run for all of those drivers. A big shout out to Alessandro De Tullio, a top 10 in his debut here this week. And no, actually ends up at 11th as Nico Christodoulou first got by Eves, then he got by De Tullio. What a great run for Christodoulou in that one. Started 18th, he ends up 10th. Excellent drive for the VRD pilot. And again, Nikita Johnson with the win, the margin of victory, 1.3 seconds. There are your unofficial results as Chase Denmark coming home in the 2nd spot. Christian Brooks ends up in 3rd. Lockie Hughes in 4th. Simon Sykes rounding out the top 5 with the fast lap bonus point as well, 1:17.909 for Simon Sykes. Matt Clark, a lonely race in 6th position, kind of cruised around there, but crucial points for Matt Clark. Frankie Mossman able to get by Garcia Arce midway through and then flat jet away. He was able to get 14 seconds out in front, finishing in the 7th spot. Garcia Arce holding off a race-long battle and pressure from Ricardo Escoto and Alessandro De Tullio. Garcia Arce 8th, Escoto 9th, and as we said, Christodoulou slipping by De Tullio for 10th. Nonetheless, Alessandro De Tullio in his debut weekend finishing in 11th position in the opening race. Great job for him. Braden Eves did not go the right way, started 5th, ended up 12th, just went backwards throughout the majority of that race. Ethan Ho, 13th, he was able to hold off Liam Skeets and Cooper Becklin there in the last lap. Logan Adams soldiered around after that big wreck at Road America. They put a new car together, just got it finished up earlier this week. So really just one of those kind of get out there, get comfortable, run good laps, stay out of trouble for Logan Adams, like some of the drivers here, all focused on 2025 for him.
Exactly right. Montiero, Deschelsky, Baptiste, and Durst, your top 20. As that's the unofficial results. Rob Howden's going to make his way down to the podium to talk to our victorious 3 drivers. We'll have a chance as we'll see number 17 of Nikita Johnson pulling up in front of the Mid-Ohio podium. And he's going to jump out of that cockpit and celebrate for sure, as this will be his 5th win on the year. And that's going to put him very much right back in the championship hunt. Not that he was ever really out of it, but he's going to put a challenge on Jace Denmark, who again had a great run into second place. Christian Brooks in the 19 car up into third with Lockie Hughes, the points leader, finishing in fourth. Again, the top 4 drivers separated by just about 4 seconds. It was very, very close for the top 4, pretty much all race long. Simon Sykes made a race of it at the end by setting fast lap, closing to within 2 seconds of Lockie Hughes at the stripe. Frankie Mossman, after spending the first part of the race behind Garcia Arce, eventually got past him and then just set sail as he had about a 7-8 second gap to Matt Clark, and he closed that down to a 1.5 seconds at the end. So Mossman set his fastest lap on the last lap. So good for him, for the Jay Howard driver, to make a valiant charge to try to get up into the top 6, but a 7th place finish he'll certainly take. Garcia Arce held off the battle behind him. It was the best battle on the racetrack pretty much all race long. Garcia Arce and then Escoto with Krista Dulu with a last lap pass on ADT, excuse me, with Braden Eves, unfortunately, as Rob said, going the wrong direction, starting inside of row 3, and unfortunately ending this race in 12th on what may be his last weekend in this car, unless he can find some funding to move on to Toronto and Portland to wrap out the season. Is Rob making his way down toward the victory podium? We'll hold it right here until he makes his way there to welcome our top 3 drivers. Meanwhile, as we sounds like Rob Howden is mounted the podium, making his way down. So Rob, we'll turn it over to you for the podium celebration.
John, thank you so much. Again, down here in Victory Lane for the first of 2 races here in the Titus Grand Prix for the drivers in the USF Pro 2000 category. All told, a pretty uneventful race up front. The battle actually further back, that fight for 8th on back that we saw. Drivers up front, though, all doing a good job. When you think about the championship, your goal is to be better and finish better than the point leader. All 3 of our podium drivers did that. The point leader, Lockie Hughes, finishing in 4th. So all 3 of these drivers making up points on the current championship leader. Finishing in 3rd spot today, folks. He has a busy day in USF Pro, 2 races plus Indy next. Christian Brooks coming home P3 for Pabst Racing. Great way to start off a busy day for Christian. 3rd spot in the race here, and he'll again make up ground on Lockie Hughes in the championship fight. Finishing in 2nd, a strong run all race long, folks. P2 for Pabst Racing, Jace Denmark. Solid run for Jace. Another 2nd place finishes, trying to get that first win, but a great job there for Jace. Jace grabbed your trophy there. But the driver getting the win today, a very crucial victory for him for sure, able to get back on top. Another win on the season, closing up in the championship. The winner today, the dominant factor for VRD Racing, Nikita Johnson. Nikita, how important is this race for you to get back on top? I know it's been a rough kind of run through it, but today, absolutely perfect.
Yeah, we lost a lot of points at Indy and Road America, so it's great to be back on top and gain a lot of points. We gained a good bit on Lockie and a little bit on Jace, but it's good just to be back on the top step.
I watched your times a lot through that race, right? And they were super consistent. 18 flats, maybe an 18.2 here. Do you feel that in the car? Was it real consistent for you?
Yeah, I feel the driver and the car is very consistent today, so we'll see for race 2, but we've been very consistent in practice and qualifying, and now we can show our race pace.
Who do you want to thank today?
I want to thank all of VRD, especially Dan Mitchell, Jacob Loomis, Russ, Hugo, my mechanic, my dad for being here, and then the rest of my family back home, my mom and brother. All my sponsors for helping make this happen, and then, yeah, just all the team, and then everybody back in Florida that's supporting me.
You told me yesterday if you won, you were going to shave that mustache off. Is it going to happen?
Yes, it will, but I'll wait until race 2. Maybe it's Lucky Stash. So.
All right, okay, Lucky Stash. I'll give you that. It's got to come off later, though. Grab that trophy. Nikita Johnson, folks. If it's a Lucky Stash, he's got to keep it. What a fantastic day. Like I said, those lap times were so good, so consistent. Jace was getting closer at one point, got it down to a 1.2 seconds, but all 3 of these drivers so evenly matched. If you look at their lap times, almost all equal. That pole position so crucial here in Mid-Ohio, and Nikita, of course, doing a great job taking full advantage of that. On the pole, got out to an early lead, and then held that position through 30 laps. Grueling 30 laps for these drivers. And again, so give it up to them for sure. Nikita, Jace, and of course Christian. Remember, all three of these drivers just 2 steps away from the NTT IndyCar Series. We talk a lot about the success of driver that moved up. Guys, time to celebrate for the first time today. Grab that champagne, grip it and rip it. Just keep the champagne away from my photographers. There it is, folks. Champagne flying for the first time today here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. 4 races as part of the USF Pro Championships Tatus Grand Prix. Little bit of time, we're going to have the drivers in UFF Juniors, then USF 2000, and of course the last race of the day for those of you campers around the racetrack enjoying it will be these drivers here, USF Pro 2000, back on the racetrack once again to cap off their doubleheader. We'll see whether or not Nikita Johnson can do it again for VRD. On behalf of Anderson Promotions and Continental Tires, folks, thanks you so much for tuning into the broadcast. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now. Fans, welcome back to Road America. A busy day, almost done here for the drivers in the USF Pro Championships presented by Continental Tire. A triple header, as you know, for USF Pro 2000. That means they're going to get another qualifying run. They're already on track earlier today. They're going to do it one more time here to set the grid for race number 2. This qualifying session equally important because it'll also provisionally set the grid for race number 3. They need to get one good lap in for sure, and ideally 2 super fast laps to see if they can't start up front. This is a track where starting up front does help get away from some of the action in turn 1 and down in turn number 5. But we'll see what the drivers have learned from the first qualifying session to go faster as well here this afternoon. Lots of racing coming, of course, on Saturday and Sunday, but qualifying first, it's qualifying for race 2 and potentially race 3 for USF Pro 2000.
You can feel confident Continental is the smart choice in tires.
And they handle extremes?
Yep. Tested from the Texas desert to near the Arctic Circle.
Really?
Really.
Anything for the guy who finds that one pothole?
Yeah. Road hazard coverage has your back.
For real?
Absolutely.
Were they made by like a bajillion engineers?
Well, closer to 100. Continental. Welcome to the smart choice in tires.
Over the years, we've chased down a lot of dreams, each one leading to the next, all the way to our most electrifying dream yet. Introducing the the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. Made to inspire the newest generation of dreamers so they can make their dreams reality. The all
from the last time they hit the racetrack for qualifying. USF Pro 2000 drivers back behind the wheels of their Tatis race cars as we get set to go. Qualifying for race number 2, provisionally race number 3 of the triple header. Once again, live here at Road America. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Howden alongside the voice of Road America, Eric Miller. Temperature now up to 66 degrees. Much of the cloud cover we had at the end of the USF 2000 session dissipating off. A lot of blue skies, but one thing has been constant here, Eric, all day long, in the last couple of days, the wind is brisk.
15 to 25 mile per hour wind gusts, and it is crossing traffic, and it's coming in directions. In this case, it's coming from the northwest, so it's coming from 12 to 1. So your turn-in entry into turn 1 is all kittywampus, to use one of those terms. But turn 3, you've got more downforce in the front of that car than you're anticipating as well, as you're turning back across it. As it comes then down the straightaway through the Moraine Sweep, it's still crossing the racetrack in front of you. Turn 5, you've got a little bit more braking downforce, though. That's the advantage into turn 5. You can carry a little bit more speed.
And as I talked to Danny Jashelski, he called it a mess because he said every corner you went in, you really weren't sure which way it was going to come. A little swirling action as well, as we see some of the flags down here in pit lane in the IndyCar paddock. They're kind of moving back and forth. There's not one directional wind that kind of sway back and forth. And that's going to wreak havoc with a lot of these drivers when they head back out. But again, as we said before, qualifying here for race 2, provisionally for race 3. So unlike race number one, qualifying session number 1, where they were only qualifying 1 fast lap for race 1, 2 laps are needed here. The fastest lap you set in this session will set the grid for race number 2. This second fastest lap, provisionally the fast lap for race 3. If you go quicker than that lap in the race itself, you can use that lap. But for most drivers, I would expect they will go a little bit quicker here. So indeed, drivers rolling out. Lockie Hughes was the guy to beat early at 2:02.685. Let's see if he can do it again. That bonus point, though, let's point this out. That bonus point for Lockie brings him into a tie with Nikita Johnson. He won the championship with 178 points.
And we haven't even raced yet this weekend, right? Yeah. So we've got a great championship battle up front. But you talk about that second bank lap in this qualifying session, provisionally fast lap for race 3. The issue with that is, in this situation, when you normally set fast laps in your race for qualifying sessions, that's the intention of staying green. We've seen here a lot of times where we get 1 or 2 green flag laps, and then we end up under caution for a good portion of the race. That's what you're trying to avoid here. That's why that second lap is so critical here in qualifying too.
So true. And again, you may see a driver who struggled in qualifying here, put a fresh set of tires on for race number 2 to try to see if they can't go quicker, even come in and put another fresh set on to be able to have that lighter car with better tires to move your way up the grid. We saw that happen with Simon Sykes in Indianapolis. They pitted for tires. He ends up starting up front, goes on to get a very crucial win that has moved him up to the 8th place in points. Simon Sykes was second quick in the opening session today, qualifying 1 for Pabst Racing, able to go second with a 2:02.9, but over 0.2 of a second clear was Lockie Hughes, who laid down a fast lap number 8, the final time around the racetrack, jumped to the top of the charts and got that pole position again. He'll start alongside Simon Sykes on row 1 for the first of 2 races tomorrow. The final race of the triple header for USF Pro 2000 will hit the track at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And Frankie Mossman and the number 6 machine for Jay Howard Driver Development. A really strong run to go to P3 inside row 2 start alongside Danny Jashelski. And row 3 will be Ricardo Escoto alongside Jace Denmark. Tire warm-up time here and now. We'll see if the drivers come in to maybe put another set of tires on. I don't know whether or not they'll do that in this session, but Eric and I talked a lot during the first 2 sessions, the USF Pro and the USF 2000 qualifying sessions, that you have to have open racetrack. It's not quite as crucial in the opening lap here, Eric, because they're just really warming the tires up. They all know that their fastest laps are going to come likely on lap 7, 8, or 9.
Yeah, and we saw in that first qualifying session where laps 4 through 8, optimum tire temperatures, even into lap 9, so to speak. But lap 9, you're starting to get into that are you in traffic? You make yourself a gap at 4 and 5, and you start catching up on those cars that are in front of you, maybe 2 or 3 corners up ahead. So if you're faster on pace, you got to be careful where you're putting yourself in, in position on the racetrack. These cars coming off of pit lane, they're all in a group, and now they're going to have to kind of find their way around, and side by side here on these warm-up laps. They're not helping you. Now you got a car off in turn 8.
Because they were side by side coming out into hurry downs.
So in that situation, that could be, theoretically a critical mistake that happens midway through this qualifying session.
Yeah.
The other thing you want to try to avoid is ending up with a red here in the qualifying session. Even though it is guaranteed 20 minutes of green flag time, with that 30-minute window, you still don't want to waste that time.
You got to get the banker laps. You and I have already talked about getting a couple laps in early to make sure you have something if something were to happen, or if you have a mechanical, right? You're waiting around to the end, and all of a sudden you have a mechanical. You've been cruising around for 3 or 4 laps. That's not going to get the job done. And for sure, the tire pressures aren't where they need to be right now. During this session, if it's a 20-minute run, by the end, those tire pressures are coming up. You got the tire temps where they need to be, the fuel load, as we said. 2 drivers now pulling off, so we do have a couple of guys that are going to come in, scuffing those tires in, take those off and use them for the race, very likely. 3 drivers have made it to pit lane right now, so a number are coming in to go for fresh rubber early.
Lockie Hughes, one of them, going to pit lane right now. So that was the story in Q1, how fast Lockie Hughes was. Got the point for qualifying, tied the points championship. Now they're going for race strategy for race 2 and 3.
I love it. I think scuffing the tires is always a great idea, especially when we have a triple header. You have 4 sets of tires to essentially use over essentially 6 sessions, because there's a warm-up, the practice session, 2 qualifiers and 3 races. But they use the carryover set of used tires for that practice session. You don't have to use fresh rubber until qualifying. So 5 sessions for 4 sets. They're going to scuff the tires in and roll those out for the races. But now, as we start seeing, we're past the first 5 minutes, drivers still working together here, all kind of lined up. You find out what drivers will back up a little bit here and go to work.
Logan Adams, the 21 machine, on pit lane now as well, and they're changing fronts at the moment. So again, strategy play here, looking what tires they're going to use in the balance of this 14 and a half minutes in qualifying. But you see a lot of cars here coming into hurry downs, tucked up right up underneath the gearbox, underneath the rear wing. This is a little bit of a misnomer here in this qualifying session. You want to get a little bit of a tow, a little bit of help, but you really need to keep the downforce on the front wing.
Anytime you go to a racetrack, depending on the surface, what does it do to the tires? Does it degrade the tires, right? Do we have that deg in a long run? Because there's one team that's done something a little bit different. We talked about this in the first qualifying session. That's Frankie Mossman for J. Howard Driver Development. He only turned 4 laps. So he's essentially 4 laps of the good on the rest of the field. He's doing the same thing potentially right now. He just left pit lane. A number of the drivers already with 2 laps. They're coming around to put their 3rd lap in. More drivers, I'll punch them coming in. That's all I think the Pabst Racing drivers. Here come the TJ Speed drivers as well.
So that's the interesting thing of when they released Mossman from the pit box, half the field that was behind him is now gone onto pit lane. He can warm his tires up with no pressure from behind and then get that banker lap in. He may only need 2 or 3 laps here.
Well, again, we talk about lap 8 being the one, but is it lap 8 or is it lap 6? If guys did 2 laps, came in and put the fresh tires on, was it only a 5 or a 6 lap run that they needed to get to the end? Another one of the drivers coming into it's I think the VRD car. It's either Nico Christodoulou or Nikita Johnson. Nikita, a multi-time winner on the season so far, winning 4 of the first 5 races, but then that technical DQ for the missing inlet screen in that airbox over the driver's head. A technical DQ there, lost all the points from the race win, 33 in total, a further 30-point penalty as well. The series coming down harsh on that. Cash penalty as well to the team. So again, Nikita trying to bounce back from that. Did not have a great run at Indianapolis. Got into an incident at the Oval with Ethan Ho. Both those drivers ending up in the wall at the tail of the field. So the once large gap shrunk down to 1 point coming in. Lockie Hughes pole for race 1, as we know. There's that bonus point that puts him into a tie as we head into Saturday's double race for USF Pro. Everybody's starting to put some laps now in, but again, we don't want to jump to the gun. Matt Clark, Danny Dashelski, Christian Brooks, Simon Sykes, and Ethan Ho, current top 5, but we know before this is all said and done, things are going to change.
Absolutely, and we know that he was quick in that first qualifying session. Matt Clark goes to P1. right now in this session for D-Force Racing, but Dushelski, Brooks, Sykes, are going to be in the mix here. They were very fast in the first 4-5 laps in that qualifying session. Got a car a little bit slower. I believe that's still Mossman doing the gap find, letting the faster cars through here through Kendall Bottoms. And obviously with the alternate timeline, all he's really got to do is start that qualifying lap in Canada corner, put the foot down on the loud pedal, and start the banker lap for the first lap for Mossman now.
So Matt Clark, P1. We saw him P1 for a bit in the opening qualifying session as well. He ended up in the 9th position as the fastest driver from the D-Force camp. He'll look to try to find some more speed. They've got to make some kind of change because he was about a second off. Clark coming into pit lane right now. Both D-Force cars into pit lane. Both he and George Garcia Arce, the Mexican driver, the number 10, into pit lane. Clark still on top. Again, waiting for things just to kind of dial in here. Still over 10 minutes remaining. Guys who have come in and put fresh rubber on, they're still on the warm-up laps right now just to start to build some heat into these Continentals.
And really, this is going to be the first flyer for Frankie Mossman here, where everybody else has got 4 or 5 laps in already. Now you're starting to see some of the teams that waited a little bit in the back that only maybe have 2 or 3 laps in right now to filter up through the front. So Mossman on the first flyer here. We know that it's going to take a lap or 2 to bring the tire temperatures up with these Continentals for Frankie Mossman. The strategy worked in the first qualifying session, and now we're trying to see how it plays out here in Q2.
Indeed, second qualifying session for USF Pro 2000. 4 races on the docket for tomorrow, folks, if you are here. Also, we have our autograph session as well for both USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000. That'll be in the American Legion tent, so you can come over and join us for that for sure. We'd love to have you there. Again, the USF Pro 2000 drivers who are on track right now, their autograph session tomorrow at 1:30. And then USF 2000 at 2 o'clock, exactly where IndyCar is having their autograph session right now. And then, of course, as I said, all those races coming here on Saturday as well. 7:45 tomorrow morning for USF Pro 2000, 11:30 for USF 2000, and then we'll cap the day at 4 and 5:05 with USF Pro and USF 2000 again. So we're kind of bookending the day to a certain extent with races from the ladder series drivers. Every one of these racers here in this category just 2 steps away from the NTT IndyCar Series.
Matt Clark with his second fastest lap provisionally for Q3 is a 2:04.12.6. So that's still an impressive second fastest lap. As we talked about having that second lap banked here in this session, how critically important that is if the race laps are slower than qualifying.
That's it.
And we've seen green to checker runs here. We've seen single cautions, and we've seen 4 or 5 cautions that happen where we don't get a good race in. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the nature of having this track, this configuration, and young drivers. It's all part of that learning process here in the USF Pro Championships. 8.5 minutes left to go here in qualifying, getting that first and second quick laps in for this Q2 session, setting up for race 3 on Sunday. But with this qualifying session, Rob, in the mindset, that you do have that extra set of tires because of the third race this weekend.
Well, the interesting thing, too, just bring this up first and foremost, we haven't talked about potential for moisture tomorrow. That could change things all as well. If we do get a damp session, I'm not going to say the R word, if we do get a damp session, what do you do with the tires at that point? You throw some rain tires on, all of a sudden, you got tires, in your inventory. That's the other wrinkle of what you're going to bring up there right now.
Right, exactly. And so in that purpose, are you going to sacrifice anything in this Q2 session?
I wonder, right?
Just in case of that. And that's kind of where I'm going with the strategy play of, sometimes you can outsmart yourself, but other times you make that critical play.
Again, it could be that move you make that nobody else is doing, right? You play that card, that Uno card, and away you go. So right now it's Lucky Hughes back up top. Not surprising. He was so quick in that session earlier today at 2:02.6. Right now 2:03.4. So still about 0.8 of a second off the lap that was laid down earlier. Christian Brooks now up into second for Pabst Racing. D-Force Racing's Matt Clark in third. Danny Trzaskowski in fourth. Jace Denmark fifth. Nicholas Baptiste and Ricardo Escoto, the 2 BN Racing drivers, 6th and 7th. Ethan Ho now 8th. Simon Sykes in 10th. And Tyke Durst, who's had some trouble, had a spin in warm-up, off in turn 14 in in qualifying 1, now up into 10th. So a great job for the rookie Tyke Durst right now in the number 33. Other drivers deeper in the field, be looking for more. Braden Eves being one. He will not be happy down there in 14th right now. He needs a flyer here pretty soon. A driver who won here just 2 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to Tyke Durst, how does he rebound from those 2 mistakes? You know, that's part of that learning process too within the championship, is when you do have that bad race, you do have that bad qualifying session, staying in the mindset of how do you correct that and how do you move forward from that, because this is a mental game.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that racing is all about speed, all about the potential of going fast, right? But there's a mental aspect to this sport as well that I think sometimes gets overlooked, and which is why that this USF Pro Championship, amongst the 3 series, is so beneficial to these racers moving up, because you do learn how to handle adversity and how to rebound and overcome those adversities.
There's so many good people at Turn 3 Motorsports, a team, of course, led by Peter Dempsey, a former multi-time race winner at so many different levels. The driver that won that the most famous Freedom 100 finish ever in the 4 wide at Indianapolis. But he's got great people. James Raven's there. There's a bunch of really good people at Turn 3 Motorsports. So Tyke also has some great teammates around him as well. Lockie Hughes being one, right? Multi-time winner, won a bunch of races in USF 2000 last year. What was essentially a fight for the championship between he and Simon Sykes. So to have the right people around him, that's the key right now. Brooks is now second. Christian Brooks, Simon Sykes up into third. Still Lockie Hughes, though, on top. Fast time of 2:03.422. A 2:03.6 for Brooks, 2:03.8 for Sykes, 2:04.068 for Clark. Only 3 drivers have broke through the 2:04 mark. Deshelski, now Mossman up to 6th. Denmark, Baptiste, Nikita Johnson, and Ricardo Escoto, the top 5. Liam Skeets now up into 12th position. Front-running TJ Speed driver right now, Liam Skeets, I believe. Yeah, then you go back to Cooper Becklin making his debut here this weekend. Becklin now in the 20th spot, but trying to find more pace. He did a 2:04.5. Right now his best lap is a 2:06.2. So I would expect another big lap to come out of Becklin before it's all said and done. But again, 4 degrees warmer than it was. A lot more blue sky. You mentioned it earlier about when we had that cloud cover, there was just no direct sunlight on the asphalt either.
You know, and being new pavement yet, only, basically a season and a third in right now, you've got situationally the sunlight plays a big factor. This asphalt is still pretty dark yet. And it will absorb a little bit more light. With the newer pavement, it does absorb a little bit more of that light, more of that heat in the middle of the day. Ambient temperature, not bad. It's comfortable at 66, under 70 degrees. 71, I think, was the scheduled high today, or forecasted high today. But you look at this racetrack, you get to track temperatures 100, 101, 102, and then you get into the 108s as the sun starts to bake all afternoon. So playing into what these track temperatures are going to be also may have a little bit more to do with the strategy play.
3 minutes and 40 seconds to go. 6 laps in the books here for Lockie Hughes. He currently has P1 for both race 2 and race 3. We saw many of the fast times coming on lap 7 or lap 8. So again, a couple of laps likely left here in qualifying. Turn 3 Motorsports, Lockie Hughes looking to bounce back. A great start to the season. End up winning the opening round in St. Petersburg. Finished second in the next round. Then NOLA, an absolute disaster. 19th, 18th, and 10th. Really took the wind out of his sails, but he turned it around with 3 straight podiums in Indianapolis, a third at IRP in the Freedom 90. This would be huge to continue that momentum forward for the young Aussie. Lockie Hughes in the 44 leading the way. Christian Brooks into second. Pabst Racing now second and third with Brooks and Sykes. Clark in fourth. Ricardo Escoto for BN Racing now up into the P5 position. Deshelski, Mossman, Denmark, Baptiste, and Nikita Johnson now the top 10. There's again just over 2.5 minutes remaining. Number of drivers during their fastest laps. Ricardo Escoto P5, Logan Adams 11th, Nicholas Monteiro 13th, George Garcia Arce in 16th, and Cooper Becklin 19th. All those drivers during their fastest laps last time by. Still a couple of laps to get put into the books here as we have over 2 minutes. So anybody coming across the timing line in the next, let's say, 10 seconds is going to get that lap and another. Coming down to the end of this one for USF Pro 2000. I think, did we have a yellow flag?
Yeah, local yellow.
Local yellow. So somebody potentially off There's the yellow flag there, getting pulled back in. No, yellow flag now gone. So not sure what happened there, but I saw that yellow light pop on. Flag came out, everybody's still at speed. So whatever that was, cleared itself quickly. And we're back at it. Looking to see if any other drivers making moves. Simon Sykes does. He'll go up to second. Sykes goes to P2. He's less than a tenth behind. Brooks takes it back. The top 3 drivers are now separated by less than a tenth of a second. This thing is stepping up front. Braden Eves gets a good lap in. He'll go to 10th, much needed. He was 16th and 17th in the 2 races. He's moved himself up to 10th and 15th. He needs another big lap. Braden Eves needs to put at least one more together. Otherwise, he'll be 15th potentially for race number 2. Driver off. Oh my, that's a driver spinning out of Canada corner.
That was the local yellow.
That's the replay.
That's our off-air replay, but that is the 21 of Logan Adams.
Spins, reverses, and gets rolling and gets right back going again. So great job for Logan. Again, listen, Logan's got a pretty good lap time here right now. He was 15th. He lost that lap because he brought out a red. That would have hurt him big time. So great recovery for Logan as we're down under a minute.
Yeah, the final 45 seconds here in qualifying. Not a surprise to see Lockie Hughes up front. He has been the class of the field, both in both test sessions yesterday as well as in the practice and Q1 earlier. But Christian Brooks putting together a really nice lap on lap 7, 2:03.40 to a 3:09. So right there, this front row for race 2 going to be really good.
I say we're not done because these drivers are just getting better. These Continentals, we know, super consistent. Fuel loads coming down. These drivers now have to get it done. A couple of these guys in just enough of a gap that they're going to be able to get the draft that they need and probably not get that aero wash. Again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody down in Kettle Bottoms is done. Everybody on the last lap. Checkered flag flying this time by as they come out of 13. We had 2 drivers blow the checker in USF 2000. That is a 2-position penalty, so a couple of drivers dropping in USF 2000. We'll see whether or not the drivers here in Pro see that checkered flag and realize that they've got to come to pit lane. You don't want to jeopardize a potential spot. Everybody's coming in. Simon Sykes has gone to P1. Sykes to the top of the box right now. 2:03.03. What a lap time there for Sykes, and Christian Brooks goes to P2. That is a front row lockout right now for Pabst Racing. We're not done, though. More drivers still to come across. I don't know that Lockie Hughes went any quicker. Jace Denmark goes up to 7th. 6 of the 7 drivers in the top 7, all going faster on their final laps. Still drivers down, coming through the kink here. More drivers coming across the line. Danny Jashelski does not go quicker. Ricardo Escoto does. He'll go to 5th. Jashelski goes down to 6th. Still a couple drivers down in the Kettle Bottoms. I believe that's potentially Liam Skeets and then maybe George Garce-Arce. Simon Sykes and Christian Brooks in the final lap go P1 and P2. Still provisional. We're not quite done yet. Another driver coming to the tail of the field. I think that might be fast Frankie Mossman. Mossman currently in the 8th spot. He was 3rd earlier today. Can he throw a lap down here for us as he comes out of Billy Mitchell Bend and across the line? Does Mossman go quicker? He does. He'll go to 7th. He moves Jace Denmark down a spot. This could be the final driver across the line. No, still more to come. This final lap has been a thriller. It looked like Lockie Hughes was going to be able to get away with it. Nicholas Baptiste, I believe we still see still coming. He does not go any faster, still 10th. Here's the last drivers coming across. Our last driver coming out of Canada.
That might be Nikita Johnson, I believe.
Well, he is down in 12th. He is going to need something special here. Waiting for Johnson. He does not go any quicker. So it'll be 12th in race 1 and provisionally 14th for Nikita Johnson in race number 3, 2 and 3 rather. But it is a Pabst Racing front row lockout. And I say that because the team is from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. They have never won a USF Pro 2000 race here. And they're going to put 2 drivers on the front row in race number 2. In race 3, I think it'll be Brooks on P1. And I want to say Lockie Hughes up into the 2nd spot. So Brooks will be the pole for race number 3 provisionally now. But Sykes for race number 2. That is your top 2 drivers on the Pabst crew will be happy with that. Lockie Hughes and Matt Clark, row 2. Ricardo Escoto and Danny Jashelski, row 3. Frankie Mossman and Jace Denmark on row 4. George Garcia-Arce alongside Nicholas Baptiste on row number 5. That's your top 10. Braden Eves improved up big time. He was 17th. He'll start 11th, exactly where he's starting in race number 1. Eves alongside Nikita Johnson on row 6, Nicholas Monteiro and Liam Skeets on row 7, Ethan Ho and Cooper Becklin row 8, Logan Adams and Nico Christodoulou on row 8, and Tyke Durst and R.T. Flores will be on row number 10. And again, the superstar, Charles Finelli, 60 years young, will start 21st in the Fat Boy Racing Machine. Eric, that was good. We knew it was going to come down to the last lap. We saw guys stepping things up. Did I think it was going to be Simon Sykes from 3rd to 1st? Pretty good qualifying run for him. And not only did he pip Hughes, that's 0.3 of a second. That's a great race car.
Yeah, and you, again, tire play strategy, where they found the gap, where they found the speed, maybe a little bit of an adjustment after Q1, some adjustments. You just know that right. Pabst Racing's got so many laps around here of how good that team is. You know that you're not going to be able to keep them down, and they want this one more than anything.
And they got great drivers this year, multi-time winners in both USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000. We know that Simon Sykes will start from pole in race number 2. Already a victory this year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They're going to race at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning for their first of 3 races on the weekend, 2 tomorrow. USF 2000 on track for their opening race at 12:30. The pro drivers will be back on it again at 4:10 for race number 2. 5:05 to cap off the weekend for USF 2000. As we know, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock for the 3rd race, back into the triple header for USF Pro 2000. Remember, the autograph session at the American Legion tent tomorrow, 1:30 for USF Pro 2000, 2 o'clock for USF 2000, right beside the Victory Lane area here at Road America. But, man, we've got some great stuff happening. A big qualifying run for Simon Sykes and huge for Pabst Racing, as we said. There you go, folks. There's your autograph session right there. Tomorrow, June 8th, 1:30 for the pro drivers, 2 o'clock for USF 2000. That wraps things up here. Trackside for the USF Pro Championships, presented by Continental Tire. Qualifying said and done. Now it's time to go racing. 4 on the docket for tomorrow. We'll start the day off, and we'll end the day as well. We'll bookend it for you here with USF Pro Championship competition, the future stars of the NTT IndyCar Series. We thank you so much for tuning in, folks. A lot of great stuff still happening here trackside at Road America. Make sure to follow all of our social media and all the channels. Download the USF Pro Championship app if you haven't already. And again, lots of great stuff coming on Saturday. On behalf of Anderson Promotion, folks, thank you so much. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.
Hello everybody and welcome along to our sound and vision coverage of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as we've come up to beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, right in the heart of dairy country, and to the formidable challenge that is the 4 miles of Road America, the longest track on our IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, scheduled for a 2-hour and 40-minute dash through this green and pleasant countryside. Just about an hour or so north of Milwaukee, Road America has looked the same for a very long time now, with 14 corners populating that 4-mile lap, and it's set challenges down through the years for some of the world's best teams, car manufacturers and drivers. It'll be no different today. The long run over the start-finish line to turn 1. Opportunities to make up some early positions there on the first lap, but also an opportunity for your race to go very sour very quickly. A downhill braking area to the left-hander at turn 5 before going up through 6. The quick turn 7. Hurry downs into turn 8, the left-hander, then the long carousel, then the intimidating run through the concrete canyon of the Kink all the way down to Canada Corner at turn 12. And from there, it's all back uphill again to the start-finish line. This is a lap that is made for heroes, and this weekend we've already seen qualifying performances that have been off the scale. More lap records set again this year. Now 57 new records set in this IMSA 50th anniversary season, and this one is really significant. The Acura DPI number 6 of the Acura team, Penske, with Dane Cameron on board, faster in qualifying than any prototype that we have seen here in IMSA competition since qualifying in 2008. That was Lucas Luhr, and he was in a 1,000 horsepower Audi with the ability to pump up the boost. The lap time that Dane set was quicker even than Marco Werner went in a similar car in the race. Only by 8/1000th of a second, but quicker nevertheless for well over 134 mile an hour average. For anyone who thinks the DPIs aren't proper racing cars, well, they've come of age this year in the IMSA 50th anniversary, this golden season, and we have got great competition at the front of the field. Mazda are on a 2-race winning streak. Acura have been their major competition, and they will want to break that streak this weekend just as much as the guys in the dark Soul Crystal Red cars will want to keep it going. Jeremy Shaw, there are battles aplenty, not just at the front of the field, but right throughout the classes, and the big news is a Corvette starts on pole position in GTLM ahead of a couple of Fords and a Porsche, with the 2 fast BMWs relegated to the back after an infraction in qualifying.
Yeah, for Corvette racing, they really need a win. It's been way too long since they've been in victory lane here. They're still seeking that 100th win in North America. Maybe it'll come this afternoon. That's certainly what the team is planning. Oliver Gavin and Tommy Milner back at the wheel of number 4 car alongside Oliver, having missed the last 2 races due to sustaining a broken hand in a crash at Watkins Glen. So welcome back to Tommy. There'll be no better way to get back than to win the race. But for Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia, they were right up in championship contention until having a couple of relatively poor last 2 outings. So they want to get themselves back up into that points challenging position.
And Tommy Milner is still driving with a cast, but it's more of a support, a soft cast, if you will, than what I would call a pot, an old-fashioned chalk, as we're used to call them, back in the UK. In GT Daytona, Ben Keating's claimed his first pole position after a string of second-place qualifying, and that car has been super impressive all the way through the weekend. And absolutely great news that Ben is on pole position for him and Jerome Bleekemolen, but he's got plenty of people snapping at his heels as well.
Oh man, it's all so tight in GTD, always is, and certainly with the small balance of performance changes for a few cars coming into this weekend. The biggest change certainly was to the McLaren, which is only in its 4th North American race. That gorgeous 720S GT3 car. And that car's got a bit more horsepower, it's got a little bit less weight, and Matt Plum did a super job in qualifying to put that car 3rd on the grid. GTLM, that's going to be a battle. The BMWs are fast here, but they've got to start from the back, they've got to work their way through.
Good little battle in LMP2 as well, Jeremy. Just the 2 Oricas there, but they've been close right through this weekend too.
Yeah, and Matt McMurray in particular was super fast in qualifying. Unfortunately, that time was taken away from him because he went off the road and caused a red flag. So he has to start, supposed to start 2nd in the class, but both the PR1 Matheson Motorsports, that is car number 52, and the Performance Tech Motorsports, car number 38, they've both changed their starting drivers for the race. So it would be the guys who didn't take the qualifying duties yesterday who will start. But because the number 38 team made that decision before the number 52, that will mean the number 38 car will start ahead of the number 52 in this race.
Before we get underway here, member of our motorsport and endurance racing community no longer with us as of this morning, with the sad news that Jean-Paul Driot, the founder and man at the top of the Dams motor racing concern, has died, having fought bravely against a short illness, taking his life at 68 years old. His wife and his 2 sons, of course, get all of our condolences. Dam's a team that is synonymous with motor racing, particularly in France. Dominated the international 3000 ranks a few years ago and have stayed in those open wheel categories with a win and a third place over in the Grand Prix at Hungary this weekend, being dedicated to their founder, but also dabbled in endurance racing as well. For anybody who knew Jean-Paul, they knew he was a total enthusiast. He had the heart of a lion and much passion. Always worth having a sit and a chat with him if you bumped into him anywhere, like his black coffee as well. And if you could sit down and combine all of those, it was never time wasted. Jean-Paul Driot, the man at the head of the Dam's motor racing concern, who died today at 68 years old. Tell you what, JPD would have loved this today, what's going on at the front of the field, Jeremy, because we have a battle royale about to get underway. 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's one of those tricky distances as far as time's concerned as well. It doesn't directly correlate with a full set of stops.
No, that's right, and his pit strategy is certainly going to be really important to hear. By the way, let me just clarify in LMP2, got that the wrong way around. It's number 52 team that made the decision to change starting drivers before the number 38. So it'll be Patrick Kelly who starts on the pole position. Patrick's originally from Minnesota, lives now in Los Angeles, but he's making his comeback to racing after almost 10 years away.
And he's done a very good job indeed. The safety car is in the pit lane, field under the direction now of Dane Cameron, who hits the right-hand pedal and stretches the field and stretches the two Acuras as they head over the top of the rise, across the line, down towards the first corner. Here come the Mazdas, 77 and 55 are now side by side. Are they going to get themselves into trouble at turn one? No, they don't, but coming right the way around the outside, the number 10 of Renger van der Zande doing a cracking job making up positions earlier on. He's almost side by side with the number 84, which has dropped back a little bit. That's Simon Trimmer, who didn't get the greatest of starts in GT Le Mans. Corvette, Ford and Porsche battling out at the front of the field, but the two Acuras with a gap between them, a safe gap between them. Then the two Mazdas side by side into turn 5, 77. Ollie Jarvis holds on to his third position. Then the Action Express Whelen Engineering car, the number 31 red and white car. First of the JDC Miller cars has got the 5 Mustang sampling car right in alongside. No, it's not. It's the 10 still making up positions. Renger van der Zande is rocket propelled in this first half lap.
Changed a brand new set of Michelin tyres on that car, and he's taking full advantage of them in the early stages of this race. Brilliant effort by Renger van der Zande there. The start was pretty clean, but Oliver Jarvis got kind of pinched up against the pit wall by Elio Castro, and Evers had to just ease off the throttle just a little bit, not allowed to Jonathan Bonmarito to get a run on him, and then going down the back straight, Bonmarito makes the move into turn 5. So the Mazdas have changed position, but in GT-LM, well, it's super tight, but it's the Ford now in the lead at the moment.
Through they go into the kick for the first time. No, it's still the Corvette. Yeah, the Corvette of Ollie Gavin's got a bit of breathing space. You weren't expecting that. I don't think we were. Yeah. Ryan Briscoe, who could have been on pole position, had a chat with the affable Aussie earlier on. Inevitably, we were talking about Ashes cricket in very, actually, affable terms, to be honest. We had a good chat about the cricket, but he was rather ruining the fact that his fastest lap was taken away for a track limits infraction. That would have put him on pole position. He says he's never been so excited to drive a car in qualifying because this place is so quick and it suits the Ford. Really looked confident for the race. The light blue and light red stripes on that car. Heritage livery, second position then in that class. If we go back to GTT, pole sitter Ben Keating holding on from the Lamborghini Huracan of Corey Lewis in second place, side by side. Bill Oberlin down the outside of the Lexus, the blue and yellow BMW, the yellow and black number 14 is Robbie Highstand, who is in the Lexus RCF GT3. Bill Oberlin going for a remarkable run of victories and would become the most successful IMSA driver on victories if he can get a class win today. Would go ahead of Scott Pruitt in the standings.
equal.
Would he equal him?
I
I'm
think
sorry.
So, yeah, I think so.
My apologies.
I think so.
So he would become the joint most successful driver with Scott Pruitt.
And on that first lap, Oliver Jarvis did maintain his third position, by the way, ahead of Jonathan Bomarito. So no change in the starting positions on the first lap at the front of the DPI field. But the big mover, though, was Renger van der Zande up from 10th to 6th on that first lap.
And he had to do that if he was going to make the best of the new Michelin tyres. It was a gamble to go to the back, but he's now still further up than where he would have qualified, so that's a gamble maybe that paid off. Ollie Jarvis about to put the fastest lap of the race in as we wait for the two Acuras to come across. There's Jarvis in the dark red Mazda with the lighter roof. That's how you tell those two apart. They go across the start-finish line now, and it was indeed the fastest lap of the race for his teammate, 1:52.8. Ollie Jarvis on an absolute tear, but his teammate super quick in the final sector, and that's where Bomarito found the time. 0.6 of a second between Ollie Jarvis and the two Acuras up front. Meanwhile, in GT Daytona, the battles rage on down towards the middle of and the back end of the top 10, with Patrick Lindsay in 12th position at the moment in the Porsche number 73. That's the dark grey, white and red striped car. In behind the second of the Lexus, Frankie Monkey Calvo in the number 12 car. He's right up behind 10th position Cooper McNeil, the WeatherTech sponsored car. WeatherTech, local company to Road America, and have a huge amount of corporate guests here this weekend. 600 employees being brought to the track today. I think they were all in the pit walk earlier on, to be honest. It's their 30th anniversary of operation for WeatherTech, a very, very proud American and local company to Road America. So early exchanges now having been completed, and everybody sitting in the same still pointing in the right direction, so that's good news to start with as well, Jeremy Shaw.
It is, in stark contrast to quite a few other races we've had this weekend, but there's been early incidents. Top 4 cars, even top 5 cars actually, still pretty close together at the front of the field. And again, we talked about it, you want to make sure that you don't sort of overextend the tyres too soon in their life cycle. But that was the new fastest lap there for our race leader, 1:52.734. That is a new race lap record here for IMSA competition, and eclipses the 1:52.8 that was set last year by Simon Trummer. It's Dane Cameron that has set the new standard.
All right, okay. So it's gone from Mazda back to Acura. At IMSA Radio, by the way, if you want to get in touch with us, as the leaders track uphill towards turn 5 and turn 6, excuse me, and go through it. Turn 7 now, barely a lift, a little bit extra curb on the inside, a little bit of concrete beyond the red and yellow curbing. Great battle going on in GT Le Mans at turn 3 at the moment, at the bottom of the hill on the far side of the track from us. It's the battle for third position, with Lawrence Van Teur having the rest of the field line astern. The Corvette has broken away. Ollie Gavin has made his bid for freedom and has 2.5 seconds on the Ford GT of Ryan Briscoe, who's then got another couple of seconds on the battle for third. And effectively everybody else in the race is battling for third position. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th being 3rd Van Teur in the Porsche, then Magnussen in the number 3 Corvette, then the 2 BMWs, Blomqvist in the 25, Krohn in the 24, and just a little bit off the back of that, but still in touch, Patrick Pilet in the number 911 Porsche. Second in the championship for drivers. Big day today for Porsche. They get the right result, they could clinch the Manufacturers' Championship in GT Le Mans. And in our Michelin countdown to green, Lawrence Van Teur and Earl Bamber saying they really hope they can do that, because they want to be cut loose to go after the Drivers' Championship against their teammates, which could get very expensive for Porsche GT Racing. Coming down to the 2.5 hour mark already. My goodness, the first 10 minutes have gone over very quickly indeed, Jeremy. Dane Cameron just holding on to about 7/10 of a lead from his teammate, but Ollie Jarvis keeping the two Acuras in sight at the head of the field.
Very much so, and in fact it was Jarvis who set the fastest lap on that last time around again, so resetting the lap record there, 152.577 for that number 77 Mazda in third position.
7 different manufacturers in the top 7 of GTD as well, Jeremy, at the moment, being Mercedes AMG, Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren, Lexus, BMW, Acura. First repeat is the second Acura, the number 86 car. Trent Hinman behind Bear Figueredo, his teammate. Top 10 made up with the 91 Porsche, Anthony Imperato and Cooper McNeil in the WeatherTech Ferrari number 63. Still though, Ben Keating leading there by an increasing margin, 1.22 seconds.
Yeah, he's doing a super job, but pretty much everybody else is nose to tail there in GTD. It is interesting to see. It's still early in the race, obviously. We're only completed 4 laps, but still there's no separation at all in the GTD category. And it's the same up front too. The Acuras and the Mazdas, I mean, they haven't pulled away at this stage in the race from the Cadillac horde.
Setting it down to Shea Adam in the pit lane. Awfully quiet for you at this time of the race. Everybody got away fine, and presumably the team's just watching the race develop.
Yeah, not even seeing tires being readied for when the first pit stop will happen. Of course, if a yellow comes out within the first 15 minutes of a race, it's called a quick yellow, so the pits do not open. So as it is right now, just sort of standing here watching the crews, watching the TV screens and seeing the body language, but watching how quickly those prototypes are coming up on the back of the GTD field. I don't think it's going to be much longer before they're into traffic.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's a long lap here, so you do get a little more grace than perhaps at some of the other circuits. I think, you know, the top, 6 cars, Jeremy, are just starting to come back together again, because Pipo Derani in the red and white wheel and Cadillac, and then Renger van der Zande, who, remember, started on brand new Michelins. Everyone else has started the race on the Michelin tyres that they qualified on, which means they've got between half a dozen and 8 laps, maybe 10 at the outside on them. So Renger van der Zande's pace, with now 5 laps completed, he's had the benefit, he's had the performance advantage, if you will, from those brand new tyres. But these top 6 now, pulling away from the rest of the field behind Renger, back to Simon Trummer. There's 4 seconds between himself and the first of the JDC Miller Motorsports car. But I'm impressed with these 2 Cadillacs, Jeremy. Yeah. One from Action Express and one from Konica Minolta Racing, hanging on to the Japanese manufacturers at the front of the field.
Very definitely, and the interesting thing there also is the fact that Simon Trummer in that caliber 85, he's slipping back now at a pretty substantial rate from that top 6. He lost last time around more than a second to the leading sextet that are definitely pulling away.
So leaders have gone through into turn 1. No great changes there, but don't think that means that the guys are just having a gentle Sunday afternoon drive. Far from it. They're absolutely on the ragged edge at the moment, and the lap times prove that, as Dane Cameron goes even quicker last time around. 150